Hello, welcome to Menacing MTG. Today we have a budget deck for you, and this is for anybody who is kind of somewhat new to Arena, or for someone who just doesn't have a ton of wild cards. I posted a video yesterday, kind of a tutorial about how to kind of approach the currency within Magic the Gathering Arena. And so this is a good follow-up to that video, offering folks who are new or want to try something different an option to build a deck that has nothing but common and uncommon cards in it. I just want to say that there's also a sideboard here I'm going to show you, and what that has in it is some options for sideboarding, but additionally has like several upgrade cards in to this deck that makes it a really hot deck. This is one of my decks that I played a year or so ago, and I tracked its success, and it was running at 60+% win rate right up through. It's a very good deck. As it sits, I have played this several times after refining it and getting it to its current state in Mythic, and this deck holds its own in Mythic. It doesn't win all the time at all because the lands are somewhat limiting, and we're missing some cards that really make this sail. But it's effective, and if you have reasonable luck with card draw and get a good hand to begin with, you're going to be formidable with this deck. So Mayhem Devil is a key card here. He's a 3-drop, 3/3, and he has whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target. And you'll see that the sacrificing can be fast and furious on both sides of the board here. So let's go through the deck and see what's in it. We have one Archfiend's Vessel, and this is a good card. It has lifelink. It's a 1/1, 1-drop. But it's the type of card that you don't mind saying goodbye to, because you may be able to bring this back in the form of a 5/5 Black Demon token with flying. Kind of a potent card, a quick vehicle to that. There's a lot of low-cost lands and spells here, and this is one of them. So there's just one in here. This hasn't been in this deck previously for me, but it's a newer card, so it fits pretty good, I think. 4 Cauldron Familiar, much hated, but a very effective card in this deck, and you may as well use it if it's available to you. This is a budget deck, so this fits right in to this, makes this a formidable deck. Of course, with this we have 4 Witches' Ovens, and if you don't know how that combination works, you'll see it in some games here. 2 Omen of the Dead. This is a flash 1-drop that brings a creature from your graveyard to your hand. So any size creature, no restrictions there. 1-drop, you flash it in, you bring a creature back to your hand. And additionally, you can sack this to scry 2, and when you sack and you have things like Mayhem Devil on the board, you get to do some damage. So a little side benefit. 4 Serrated Scorpions, and this is just the 1-drop, 1/2 black creature. But it is good fodder for sacrifice, as it does 2 damage to the opponent and gives you 2 life when it does go away. So again, you have Omen of the Dead to bring that type of thing back. There's also 1 Call of the Death Dweller here that you can bring up to 2 target creatures with a total converted mana cost of 3. Okay, and you get to put counters, Death Touch and Menace counter, on either or one of those creatures. So you have, from the graveyard, you have 2 Omen of the Dead and 1 Call of the Death Dweller. And you may think carefully about using this quickly. I wouldn't bring back a Serrated Scorpion with this card alone. I wouldn't do it because, first of all, you can bring back a Mayhem Devil, which is probably far more important. So let's go ahead and continue through here. So you got a Village Rites in here, so you can sack something. And a perfect example of a Serrated Scorpion sack is a Village Rites. For example, optimally you would announce it as a blocker, the Serrated Scorpion, and then you would sack it with Village Rites. Hopefully you have Mayhem Devil on the board, you get to do a damage, you get to draw 2 cards. So just 1 Village Rites in here. 1 Claim the Firstborn, so you can take a target creature from an opponent that has a converted mana cost of 3 or less. Until the end of the turn you control it, you untap it, it has haste, you can attack with it. With any luck, you have Witch's Oven on the board, and you can sack it, triggering all kinds of things. And the layers of those things you're going to learn as we progress through this deck. So there's the second benefit to Witch's Oven. When you take control of something, excuse me, with Claim the Firstborn, you can sack it, and then you create a food token, which either offers additional reassurance that Cauldron Familiar is going to get back on the board, or you can use it for some life gain if needed. 1 Heartfire Emulator, another new card to this deck for me. This is a 2/2 2-drop, and it has Prowess, which means whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. You can also pay 1 red mana and sacrifice this card, and it deals damage equal to its power. So, for example, if you cast a non-creature spell, like, say, Angrath's Rampage, with this on the board, it becomes a 3/3. You can then sack it, triggering all kinds of things, which, again, we're going to go into, and do 3 damage to a target creature or planeswalker, and trigger the sacrifice mechanisms that are within this deck. So just one of those there. It's a good way to kind of remove a creature from the other side of the board while triggering the sacrifice mechanisms within the deck. Angrath's Rampage is a tremendous card in this deck because it doesn't just destroy target creature or whatever, it makes the opponent sacrifice. So it makes it sacrifice several things you can choose. An artifact, a creature, or a planeswalker. Super potent card. Also triggers all the benefits of sacrifice that we have in this deck. And we're getting there quickly. So one of them is Bastion of Remembrance. So if one of your cards gets sacrificed, the opponent loses a life and you gain a life. There are 4 of these in here, so these can add up. It also creates a 1/1 human soldier token that is good fodder for blocking and triggers this card's ability. So a potent card in this deck, load them up, 4 of them in there. I already mentioned Call of Death Dweller to bring stuff back from the graveyard. 2, Farika's Libation, one of the few cards, I think maybe 2 currently, that black cards that you can get rid of enchantments with. Again, this is a card that utilizes not destroy, but sacrifice. It has, you can choose one, either sacrifice an opponent's creature or sacrifice opponent's enchantment. So powerful card. Okay, 1 Plaguecrafter. Plaguecrafter comes on the board, and each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. So this is a great card. It's removal. You could, again, remember you could use the Call of Death Dweller to bring this back. Use it again. That kind of thing. Again, it's the there's 2 sacrifices that occur when this guy comes on the board. 1 by the opponent, 1 by yourself. So you can also bring this on. The opponent sacrifices something, then you may sacrifice, for example, Serrated Scorpion. That's an ideal scenario, hopefully triggering one or more Bastion of Remembrance, Mayhem Devil, and so on. Okay, so T-Balt is in here for a couple of reasons. One is because it creates 1/1 devil tokens that when they die, they deal 1 damage to any target. So again, you can sack these things and it's doing damage to the opponent in addition to triggering all your sacrifice and death mechanisms. There's a fringe benefit to this card, and you'll discover that there's more of these in the sideboard, and the reason for that is, first of all, it's a cheap planeswalker. You can get these very easily. They're just uncommon cards, and it has the ability to keep your opponent from being able to gain life. So if you're playing against, say you're playing in a best of 3 matchup where you can do some sideboarding, you can have just this one in the deck, but you can, if you discover you're going against a white life gain deck, you can load your deck up with these, and then the speaker white creature that can create 4/4 black flying tokens once you have 27 life is you're neutering that deck. So potent with a life gain deck that you're going against. But just one of them in here, and it is another great thing with Bastion and Mayhem Devil. Okay, next is Mayhem Devil. 4 of these in here. I already explained that card. 1 Bone Picker. I think there's another 1 or 2 in the sideboard. If you end up doing a best of 3 game, then you can put more Bone Pickers in if you're going against something with a lot of flying. And Bone Picker's an amazing card. It doesn't seem like a wild value for 4-drop flying with Death Touch, but when you consider this spell costs 3 less to cast if a creature died this turn. So, you're sacrificing things like crazy in here, or, sacrificing things on the opponent's board. Then this comes on for 1 black mana. Okay, incredible. Just 1 in here, though. We have 2 Revenge of the Ravens. Again, you can use creativity to kind of mix things up with a little sideboard action. You could have 1 Revenge of the Ravens, bring in another Bone Picker. There's a lot of flexibility within this deck. But Revenge of the Ravens is a great card because whenever an opponent attacks you, you gain a life. They lose a life. It just adds up very quickly with Witch's Oven and Cauldron Familiar and all the other mechanisms within here. But if you're doing a best of 3 and you're an opponent that has enchantments and artifacts, not creature heavy, you might want to ditch these and bring in Bone Picker, more Bone Pickers, more T-Balls, different things that are going to benefit you more. I think there's enough stuff in there. So now let's take a quick look at the lands in here. We have 11 swamps, 6 mountains, 1 Bloodfell Cave that gains a life, and 4 Evolving Wilds. And Evolving Wilds is a great card. It is slow mana, but this has 2 benefits. One, that you can choose which color you need from swamps and mountains. And 2, that it sacrifices itself to go search for that. So it can trigger Mayhem Devil as an additional benefit. So now let's take a quick look at the sideboard. You can see that I have many more black lands in here. As there's not a ton of red creatures. You need the red for sure because you need to get Mayhem Devil out here. But there's nothing with a 2-drop red. There's actually nothing with a 2-drop black. So this is all really simple stuff to get out. Of course, you do have 4 Angrath, so it is important to get 1 red mana out, by turn 4 at the latest. And I think with 6 mountains, 1 Bloodfell Cave, and 4 Evolving Wilds, that's 11 cards that give you the opportunity to get a red mana on the board. So now let's take a glance at sideboard. 2 Dreadhorde Butchers. Now, this is a rare card. But it's tremendous in this deck because it just deals damage when it dies equal to its power. And it's fast. It gets out there with haste, can get big quick. You can take a look at my Butcher deck that highlights this, and you can keep bringing it back. 2 Golden Eggs. This is a cool card, and part of the reason that it's so cool is that it draws a card, then you can sacrifice it for, if you're desperate, any color mana. And the other thing is you can sack it for life, so you can bring this on, draw a card, sack it, trigger Mayhem Devil, gain 3 life. So it's a cool card that works well in this deck. It didn't earn a spot in the main deck at this time. Now here's Ayara, which is a tremendous card in this deck. Another thing that makes this deck soar. So really, I'm going to tell you right now that the 2 things that make this deck soar are 3 things really, but 2 prime things are having 1 or 2 Ayaras in here, and having, if you had 2 Ayaras, 2 Judiths, and then maybe 1 Midnight Reaper or 2. But first choice is Ayara and Judith. These are rare cards, and they have huge value. Ayara, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, opponent loses life, you gain a life. You can also use this to sacrifice a creature, tap it and sack a creature, and get to draw a card. So it's a card draw mechanism that triggers all your sacrifice and death stuff, and then stuff comes back on the board, like Cauldron Familiar. It just goes wild with this. And the deck without these things doesn't gain as much life, so it just boosts up that life gain. It is 3 black mana. So, yeah. Now, Midnight Reaper, when a creature of yours dies, it deals you 1 damage, but you draw a card. Huge card draw engine here. Again, 2 Ayara, 2 Midnight Reaper, 2 Judith, and you're going to be rocking with this deck. Absolutely rocking. And you'd probably get rid of a T-Bolt and just have it in hand. You could get rid of a few things. Dreadhorde Butcher, is good, but I wouldn't choose it over these 3 here. So Judith gives all your creatures +1/+0. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Judith deals 1 damage to any target. Okay, and it's 3-drop, 2/2, but it's ultra potent card. You can only have 1 on the board at a time because it's legendary, but it is a great card, very underrated card. So here's your additional Bone Pickers, and here's where the land works great. So you can replace those Evolving Wilds with Fabled Passage when you have these cards, when you earn these cards and buy them, whatever. The difference with this card is when you have 3 when you have 3 lands on the board already and you bring this in 4th or later as a land, then when you sack it and choose either a swamp or a mountain, then it comes on untapped. So as opposed to Evolving Wilds, where the card always comes on tapped, this comes on untapped, which can be a huge benefit. You can maybe play 2 things that turn instead of 1, or 1 bigger thing, etc., etc. So yeah, as you have the cards and ability to evolve this deck, this is one of your big choices. Now, you can also choose to get rid of the Bloodfell Caves that gains you a life, but comes untapped, and leave an Evolving Wild and 4 of these. So then that would give you 5 land sacrifice triggering mechanisms. But play around with that. cool stuff to be done. Okay, I think that's the whole nine. I think we're just going to play some games now. So please, folks, consider subscribing, leaving me suggestions, things that you'd like to see me build, be it budget decks, be it jank decks. Give me feedback on what I'm doing. And thank you for watching. Enjoy the games. Okay, we're jumping right in here. This is the beginning of turn 2, and I got a tough situation here because I don't have a red mana yet, but I like what I have so far. I got the Serrated Scorpion on right away, and we're going up against the white life gain deck, it looks like, and so we're going to want to do some damage very fast here and persistently. I'd love to get red mana, but I do have the oven and the familiar, and I got a scorpion on, so I can bring on both of those items right now. So we tap their life little. Whenever I bring a creature on with Soul Ward, and this is a tough card, it gains life. So we're looking for another land to get Bastion, or if I get a red mana next turn, I would try to take something off, quite possibly. I'll go in and attack with Serrated Scorpion here, because they're likely to have the Prime Speaker, or whatever that guy's called, the Speaker 1/1 that create, there he is right there, Speaker of the Heavens. Yep, so they have him. This is important to note if you don't know how this Cauldron Familiar works. You can see this deck just piles on the life quick. So we have a way to combat that to some degree. We're going to need more mana, though. So what you do is you wait, because this guy can attack. If I was to take the Familiar off the board now, he could attack with him. So I'm going to pass. And he's got to determine if he's going to attack now. He chooses not to because he knows what I would do. What I would do if he was attacking with this card is I would block with this. I would announce it as a blocker. But then after I announce it as a blocker, this lights up the oven, and I click the oven and remove the familiar, causing this to not attack. But now I'm going to sack this. And because he has no mana available and can't remove the familiar, because you don't want to lose this Cauldron Familiar. You always want to have the oven available. I can bring it back on. It's an exile now, so I bring it back on whenever there's a food token on the board. I click the food token and sack it, and he's probably getting impatient with me explaining to you, but also he can see that he's not going to get the life gain that he would like to have, because this Cauldron Familiar takes a life away from them every turn, and we gain a life. So there you have that game. Okay, we're back here. I'm just going to jump right into this game so you can, sorry about that, you can see that I have an Evolving Wilds in the swamp, but I'm going to bring the swamp on first because I want to get a Serrated Scorpion on. We have 3 of them in hand. Cauldron Familiar. We do have 4 of these in the deck, but you want to be a little careful with them. So I'm going to continue to bring Serrated Scorpion. Ooh, forget that. Okay, so we're going to bring up Evolving Wilds. We're going to throw the oven on the board. Optimally, you want the oven on the board. Then we're going to sack Evolving Wilds. Excuse me, I'll get back to that. Toss a red on. So you want the oven on the board, if you can, ahead of the familiar. But sometimes you just can't wait for that. So I'm going to use this as a blocker. If he comes in with this Death Touch Lifelink, the Dire Moon is a good card. Then I can just block with the Scorpion. He gains a life from the Lifelink, but I do 2 damage to him and gain 2 life. Bootnipper, another great card. I'm going to go with Lifelink with that card. And I doubt he'll come with the Dire Moon. He does come with the Dire Moon at this time. And we'll just block that, and we'll end up gaining more as a result of that. So You can see we'll be at 22, he'll be at 19. Okay, this is just excellent. We have mana. So we're just going to go, and what I'm going to do here, even though it may seem counterintuitive, well, I can't do it anyway, but if I had the mana, I wouldn't bring all of these scorpions on, because pretty soon, when he has 4 black mana, I'd be worried about a extinction event, which can exile stuff off the board. Okay, Grasp of Darkness. So I have an interesting choice here. I could sack that. I'm not gonna though, because I'm gonna keep my oven for this. Or let that resolve. It'll do 2 damage to them. Gain me 2 life. Either way, like, if I had sacked that Serrated Scorpion, it would create a life token for me, a food token over here, and then I could block with this. It would die, but I could bring it back with that food token. It's my turn. He's not going to attack, so we're going to bring him off the board. He knows the story. I'm not going to bring it back on because he has a black mana here. He could have a 1-drop kill spell. My turn. Okay, this is amazing. So we're going to bring out the Mayhem Devil, and now you get to see this in order, because the Mayhem Devil is going to kill the Boot Nipper because I'm sacrificing this food right now. Whenever anything is sacrificed, you get to deal a damage to a source. So this is the magic of this deck here. So now I'm going to pass the turn, and when I sack the Cauldron Familiar, it deals a damage. So he's not going to want to bring anything on. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some benefit out of him right now. But the good news is that I have this in hand, the Omen of the Dead. And he gets to do it. Mayhem Devil deals a damage on his way out the door. And I could bring this guy on, but I'm not going to take the risk, because it would trigger him again to sack the food, but we're going to let him go. I have this Omen of the Dead in hand, so if okay, he's going to give it up. He knows what's coming, and just doesn't have enough tools to kind of deal with this deck, I think, and this is what happens. Okay, we're back for game 3, and before I'm going to get this rolling. I like this hand. I'm going to keep it. What we're going to do is go directly to Evolving Wilds and get red mana. But I wanted to mention that I should have put something else in my sideboard. The Chandra 3-drop Planeswalker, it is a rare card. That's why it's not in this deck, but it is a very potent card. It's the one that creates 2 1/1 token creatures, and then you sacrifice them at the end of the turn, and needless to say, they trigger Mayhem Devil like crazy. We got a really cool deck, hand going here. 2 Mayhem Devils. We have a Claim the Firstborn. Now we need a Witch's Oven. So I like what I am seeing here. We got an Angrath Rampage, so we can remove. Now we may be looking at rogues here. He may have some bounce, which is a little bit concerning, so I'm just going to come on with the Scorpion first. Attack with him. I do have 2 Devils in my hand, but I do not like getting a key card like that countered. Okay, so we did lure him out. Does the damage, and we get to bring on Mayhem Devil. So this may be a kill-heavy deck, which will challenge us. Okay, there's Cauldron Familiar. So we have good stuff in hand. Will I risk Cauldron Familiar? I think I'm just going to come in again, swinging with Mayhem Devil first. See what they have going on. It looks like they're going to take him off the board. And that's okay, because what I'm going to do now is Mayhem Devil and Cauldron Familiar. Getting a bit of a life advantage here. This is, Dimir is scary. They have tools. There is the Fabled Passage, which you can... Now see, there's the problem with Fabled Passage for the opponent. It triggers Mayhem Devil. I love it. Yeah, learning the nuances of this deck is it's a worthy bit of effort that you'll put in because it does pay off. This is such a cool deck, and like I was saying, if you're kind of new to Magic and want a couple potent decks to build this up, you can evolve it, and then you can, if you did a blue counter deck as well, a mono deck, that would be cool. So here, don't have much for choices, but what I'm going to start with is to bring these guys in. Nothing happens, we're going to try the Bastion. It might get countered. It does indeed. We do have some good advantage here at this point. They're going to want to bring something out. Ooh, and they spend all their mana but one. There are a few one-drop counter spells. We don't have any creatures in hand anyway, but again, we can swing for 4. And there is a good card to return something from the graveyard like that Mayhem Devil, but now is not the time. They're going to have to send something back to our hand or kill something here or put some creatures on the board, or otherwise they're going to die 2 more turns like this. And they do have 6 mana, so they have the luxury of playing something and remaining able to counter. Okay, geez, they're going to take another round here of damage. They're in pretty serious trouble here. So I think, I guess what I'm worried about is Extinction Event, because I'm considering I could bring another Mayhem Devil from the graveyard and put it on, but I just think we're going to continue to attack here. One more turn of that will end it. If they bring a creature, we can take it if it's small, or we can have them sack it. Okay. They're going to be looking to remove or return to hand things that I have now. I can use Claim Firstborn on myself and give something haste. So I could do that with a Mayhem Devil. Bring it back and give it haste. And we're going to see what they got going on here. Okay. We have 5 mana, so I think we're going to roll the dice here and put up the Emulator, see if they counter that spell. If they do counter that spell, I'll go get Mayhem Devil. I won't be able to give him haste because I used my only red mana. Okay, that does hurt. But it does get Mayhem Devil on the board. I could do Emulator and Serrated Scorpion. But I'm going for Mayhem Devil. He gets a Death Touch counter. And we come in and we're down to 3. I'm guessing there's no creatures in this deck here. A tense game, though, because he does have a lot of land and 5 cards in hand. He could have something like a spell. Oh, fatal push, okay. Creature won't help him because Mayhem Devil now has the Menace and Death Touch counters on him. Menace. It would actually be ideal if he did bring a creature, because then I could, if it's a smaller creature, I could take it. Okay, so here we have they must have removal here. Gear Hulk, okay, that is a problem. He gets to pull a spell out like Fatal Push. No, it's not going to work for him. Heartless Act would be the one he'll be. But my Devil has counters on it, so I believe that's going to prohibit Heartless Act from killing him. Eliminate. Yeah, so he'll be able to use Eliminate, which is terribly unfortunate. He'll be able to kill me. What I do have in hand is Angrath Rampage, so I can get rid of the Gear Hulk. Unfortunately, it's too big. Oh boy, yikes. That I wasn't counting on. Okay, so this is very interesting. I can actually take control of this one and make him sack that one. I don't have, yeah, I do have another red in hand. Is he going to be able to kill me? It has counters on it. Is it just +1/+1 counters? I'm going to be surprised if that works. He kills his own creature. Wow. Okay, so that's game because I have Menace. Good game. Wow. How was that? I believe I had answers to all of his choices there because I was going to be able to claim the token, and I had red mana here, so then I could have had him sack the Gear Hulk and come in because the token has no converted mana cost, so Claim the Firstborn works with converted mana cost creatures of 3 or less. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video, kind of short, but I just won a ton of games there with this deck. Total budget deck. Have a great one. Stay tuned in. I have some cool decks in the hopper. Take care.